Hello and welcome to the finals of 1999 Pro Tour Chicago. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm here with Brian Hacker, and we're really looking forward to this championship match between Bob Maher Jr. on the right hand of your screen and Brian Davis on the left. I gotta tell you, the more I look at Bob Maher's deck, Brian, the more I like it. You can really tell that Bob has played this deck through multiple tournaments and really understands what's going on.
It's a very impressive deck. Not just the main deck, too. The sideboard is extremely impressive. 13 different cards.
Gotta love an Enlightened Tutor sideboard. Similar to Vampire Tutor sideboard, you just put one-ofs of things you can tutor for that will devastate certain opponents. In fact, we watched Bob in the quarterfinals just demolish Dirk Dabrowski with one card, Trade Routes. He has one copy of Trade Routes in his main deck, but 4 Enlightened Tutors to go get it. And one of the cards to keep an eye on for this matchup is another one-of that Bob can Enlightened Tutor for. He has Ivory Masks in his main deck. Mercadian Masks rare, 2/WW. It says that you cannot be the target of spells and effects. Brian Davis only has 2 creatures in his deck, just 2 Skittering Scourges. All the rest of his damage comes from Drain Lives and Corrupts that he points straight at Bob. With Ivory Mask on the table, Brian will have an extremely hard time winning.
And not just
that. He
that.
has 2 discs in his deck, but Bob has answers for those as well.
And not just that, after sideboard in will come a Compost, which is really devastating.
The spirit of Chicago is strong with this one. First Pro Tour ever with Necro in Extended in Chicago. He is playing against a hometown kid, hometown guy, Bob Maher, but Maher has cashed his draw in. Maher's forced a mulligan, and wow, first turn, Unmask You, Ritual, Necro. You can't draw that up any better, can you, Brian?
That's a pretty ridiculous draw, to be quite honest.
Maher has to draw 2 Force of Wills and 2 blue cards. How does he win?
Well, he's still got the Enlightened Tutor engine, so as long as he can keep enough land in his hand and on the board, he could potentially Enlightened Tutor for an Ivory Mask, which should stall the game. Brian may not want to play, and remember, I think in this first game, other than the discs, he doesn't really have any way to deal with the enchantments, so the game could stall out if he can get a disc or an oath. An oath will stop the creature damage too.
Well, I mean, Brian only has 2 creatures in his entire deck.
Right.
By the way, there's 5 creatures total between both decks. Bob has 3, Brian has 2. Bob does have a 4th creature in his sideboard, to be fair. That draw is not very good either.
That's a really poor draw.
Wasteland is his only land.
Does have
he has an Impulse.
Force of Will, I think. No, that's a Brainstorm.
Is that a Brainstorm?
I believe so.
One more time.
Okay. One more time.
I think that's a good mulligan. I think that's a really good mulligan.
He's right.
And if he could see his hand, he'd definitely mulligan it.
Well, it's almost good for Bob. I mean, Bob doesn't want to waste a good draw when Brian's got that. I don't think Bob has a draw that can beat Brian Davis's hand right now.
I think so.
Perverse things would have to happen in the upcoming turns.
Notice my mask was coming, so I'm trying to kind of small.
I mean, and whatever 5 cards Bob finally settles on, he's going to immediately lose one of them to Unmask.
Like, to be perfectly honest, the best hand Bob might draw might be 5 land, or like
I agree.
Something very similar.
That's
close. That's a perfect draw almost.
Okay.
I mean, he's going to lose the Aura Silence, which really stinks, but the rest of it is really solid. He just wants land.
He drew a black card. He can unmask him twice if he wants to. If he wants to remove Corrupt, he can go unmask you, Ritual, Necro. That's all I got.
There's rumors.
I'll do more next turn.
There's rumors that Brian Davis sacrificed a goat last night in order to get a draw like this.
Wow. Yep, take the Aura. Does he bother going for the Plow? I mean, he might as well. He's just going to refill his hand, right?
Yeah.
Is there a reason not to? Yeah. Oh, he's gonna be conservative, isn't he?
You should take this for hand when you drew 7 cards.
He should have 1 card in his hand.
Necro for 5.
Necro for 5. He's still gonna win, but it's not as much fun.
Yeah. Okay. End step. Yep.
Randy all Necro for 9 Bueller.
That was even more fun when you had Firestorm in your hand and there were like 3 creatures on the board. Played against Sven Geertsen, I get to say Necro for 11. And the look on his face was priceless because I'd already firestormed him once. So looking at his hand, there must be something I could do. Yeah, memory's all I got left. All right, there's Morphling. I think unmask Morphling, draw some cards. You know you're gonna unmask it eventually, right?
Yeah.
Not like Spinning Darkness is gonna do any good.
Yep, there it is.
Waste you. All right, so Bob has a land and a card.
That's nice. That's nice.
Brian's only got 2 permanents, right?
It's a good thing him's not in this environment anymore.
Although, you know, they're doing exactly what Chris Pakula said they should do to fix Extended. Said ban everything until Necro's good again. Then ban Necro, and then you're done. Yeah. Wow.
This probably is actually, I mean, for Bob, as bad as this is, it could be, I mean, it really can't be worse, but he's got a couple of land in play, which isn't too bad.
Okay, it's 8 to 20 for the record. I mean, Brian does need to take some time to build up some land in play.
He's got to develop to about six land to really get going. Although the disc is going to hit the board, and there's nothing Bob can do about it. So.
Right.
And that'll really end Bob's chances at salvaging himself with Ivory Mask or something like that.
Yeah, Brian's plan next turn is probably land done. He might go ahead and unmask if Bob actually has 2 cards in his hand. I don't know if he needs to unmask. But he just needs to take some time, build up some land and play. Play the disc, and then start draining and corrupting.
Never formed. Okay.
Yeah, this looks correct.
So he doesn't even really care to unmask him at this point.
Right. Well, he's not trying to defend anything. I think next turn he may unmask to make sure.
Right.
Well, how much enchantment removal does Bob have in his main deck? Does he have anything other than that 1 aura?
Let's take a look. Got his main deck.
Does he have a disenchant or?
No, it looks like it's just the aura, which he would have because he can tutor for it.
Right, of course. Yeah, I mean, aura's the best first enchantment removal.
Right. Yeah, that's it. That's just the only one. So.
And you know what? If Brian didn't know that off the top of his head, he would have unmasked there. This kid studied. He did his homework last night. He had clearly spent a lot of time cramming last night. He didn't bother to unmask Bob because he knows the only way for Bob to remove a disc is already in his graveyard. It's kind of unfortunate that he didn't draw a land. Might have to consult for a swamp here. I think I would consult for swamp.
Yeah, sounds right.
It's not risky at all. There's 20 swamps in the deck.
What's amazing is, despite the fact that Bob
for
is in as bad a situation as you can possibly imagine, he could actually get out of this. I mean, he could potentially draw a Gaze Blessing, somehow get into something that gets rid of the disc, and put down Ivory Mask.
I really think he should have consulted for swamp there. I mean, he paid the alternative casting cost of 3B for unmask. He could have consulted for swamp and still paid that alt CC. Yeah, Bob's got another counterspell. He gets to counterspell a drain. If he doesn't get the rest in the meantime.
Bob's really hoping that after he says go, Brian will reach over and draw a card.
Train life you for 3.
It's smart not to use the ritual. He knew Bob's just going to counterspell. He's saving the ritual to sink into the next drain after he runs Bob out of counter magic. It's good play. This kid can play. The more I think about that first game against Raphael Levy, the more impressed I am with the way Brian Davis played it. He locked Raphael Levy under his own Winter Orb, and he saw it coming from turn 4. He just played the entire game. Raphael Levy sitting there waiting for the Winter Orb to get disked away, saving stuff back so he can win after the disc blows up. Brian Davis just won the game with untapped disc in play.
Right. Well, the only problem here is that Brian does need to get some more life back. He's lost a lot of life from the Necropotence. Yeah.
Brainstorm. Great.
So,
he has corrupt and drain
brainstorm.
Though, right?
The counterspell here would be big.
That's big.
That's huge.
Does he still have 2 blue?
That is huge.
What are his land? He's got Wasteland. He had to tap Tropical Island for that.
Right. It gets duressed away, but
he can just keep the Tundra. Can't tell if that's a Savannah in play. Then Bob needs to play Tundra. Yeah, it's a Savannah, so he probably keeps Tundra counterspell and plays the Tundra, right?
Right. That's right. This would be really big if...
Brian should duress here.
Right.
I mean, it just brainstormed. He's got to know that Bob's card is decent. Yeah, there's the duress. That'll get counterspell. Now, he's got a corrupt in his hand. Ritual corrupt? Or ritual drain.
That's correct.
Drain for 4.
Or drain for 4.
Drain for 4.
Yep.
That's probably better. Now, presumably, he'll come up with a swamp and be able to... He still has a consult in his hand, right?
Yeah.
Why hasn't he consulted for swamp?
Maybe saving it to consult for something else, figuring he'll draw swamps in the necropotence.
Instep.
Yeah, but I mean, all his drains and all his corrupts would be bigger if he had another swamp.
Yeah, he didn't draw swamp.
He did get a wasteland, which will allow him to cast the corrupt.
Right.
But it's a corrupt for 5, where it should be a corrupt for 6.
Go ahead.
But he can still consult for swamp, and well, then he can't corrupt.
Well, while this game 1 may be a preview of the games to come, I don't think Davis will consistently get off as fast as he did.
Certainly not.
So, for those of you rooting for Bob, don't lose heart just yet.
And Bob has Compost in his sideboard. Compost is amazing against the free spell Necro deck.
Okay.
Bob brainstorms his response. Saw an extra card. It was blue. Yeah, he takes the impulse. So now he can impulse his response, but I don't think he has enough mana left.
Okay.
If he gets Arcane Denial... Does he have Arcane Denial? Does he have a U1 counter that he can use here? As an option? Oh, it's still... yeah.
Sylvan Library.
So none of that helps. He'll take the Sylvan just because it might allow him to get back into the game.
Okay.
But the drain resolves.
Oh, you mean drain resolves?
Sylvan will get in play, I think. I don't think he's got a way to remove it from his hand, in his hand right now.
It's now Davis 6, Maher 12. Brian will draw some more cards. And Bob will certainly play Sylvan Library here. I think Brian should probably then disc it away. There's one swamp.
Go ahead.
Bob needs to draw a Gaia's Blessing. That's the main card to draw.
That one's not bad. It's not great. He's got 5 land in play, so he can counter a drain potentially, but...
Yeah, if...
But no, there's Wasteland on
yeah,
Brian's side of the board.
If Brian is conservative about...
Bob just nonchalantly go ahead, trying to play possum, trying to look dead. Brian should waste something.
Yeah.
Waste one of the blue mana and then corrupt, right?
Yeah, that's right. No, he didn't. And he's going to get it first.
What's that?
Yes, Force of Will.
What was that? Bob Maher, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that was, I think, the first mistake we've seen from Brian Davis.
We're not
Guy
missing
doesn't
something
make
this time,
mistakes very often. That was just a very clear instance where he should have wastelanded. But he's probably not going to get too penalized as long as he can consult for something to give him some life.
Yeah.
But that was...
What's he used? He's used 2 drains and a corrupt?
Yeah, I think so. Now he can...
He gets his draw face back too.
Right.
Okay.
Bob's going to play Sylvan, presumably. And now Davis should disc away the Sylvan and the Necro, right?
That's what I think. Yeah, he needs to get his draw face
His other
back.
option is to use a consult.
I mean, this is insane. When you think about how
You know, if you
large
removed
a
another
start
corrupt
Davis
from the game,
got
too.
and where we're at right now, this is just really nuts. I mean, how many people really thought Bob had a chance in this game when you look at the first, like, 2 or 3 turns that Davis had? All right, there's a couple of people raising their hand, but not too many. And I think those of you that are lying.
There's 1 corrupt removed from the game, and there's a corrupt and 2 drains in the graveyard, if my memory serves. It's not 3 drains in the graveyard, is it? It might be 3 drains.
Yeah, boy.
So those consults are really risky.
I love these shots. You get to look at Davis. He's going, what the hell just happened?
Why? Davis sporting a competitor shirt in the top agent.
He's reviewing his turn 1. I unmasked, I cast Dark Ritual Necropotence, then I dumped Bob Maher's hand. Why am I still playing this game? This is really where you got to have composure, step back, think, okay, I got to win. I have to win.
Yeah, he knows he should have wastelanded too. He had to, as soon as that Force of Will came out, Bob tapped out for Force of Will. He has to have known that he should have wasted.
While the match gets very different after sideboarding, the first game is always a huge game to determine momentum.
Sure.
And if after this start, Maher wins, all the momentum's got to be in Maher's favor, especially after the easy way that Davis handled Levy in the semis, and relatively easy way he handled the Englishman in the top 8. Yeah, there it is. He gets his draw phase back. I don't know.
You can't let Bob sell him.
Do you know, Randy, exactly what the count is on how many drain lives and corrupts he has remaining? We got our man on the floor, Scott Johns, that's going to check that.
Does he start 4 and 4?
Let's take a look.
I'm pretty sure.
He starts 4 corrupt and 4 drain life, so yeah, he's got the full complement.
He's used up 2 corrupts, and I want to say 3 drains. It might only be 2 drains, so I'm not sure if he's cast 2 drains or 3 drains over the course of the game.
Oh my lord! Jeez! This is insane!
What the? Bob casually flips that onto the table. What just happened?
Go.
He has 1 disc left in his deck and 2 Skittering Scourges. We'd like to remind the crowd that the players are within distant hearing range, and they were able to hear that outburst. So I understand, but try to keep it a little quiet. Yeah, there were indeed 3 drain lives in Brian's graveyard. So he has 1 drain and 2 corrupts left in his deck, but those aren't going to do anything unless he comes up with the 1 remaining disc. Meanwhile, the 2 Skittering Scourges can win in the game, even while Ivory Mask is on the table.
I am just stunned at the developments of this game.
Look at the Bob's go-ahead hand gesture. So much more confident now than it was at the beginning.
There's a reason for that.
It's just interesting how the momentum is so visibly slow.
Yeah.
And if they really could hear our scream, that has to affect Brian Davis.
Yeah. Wow.
Because he knows.
Did that wasteland alter the course of this game? I think it did.
Yeah, I mean, Davis would have...
It was huge.
Bob would be at 6, and Brian would be at 8, plus he would have necroed for a bunch more.
Potentially this game could be over. It's amazing, really.
And this game has now been turned around by a Mercadian Masks card. That set's great. Did I say that when it came out? There's a beatdown. What's Brian's
some
life
offense.
total? And Brian does have spin in his hand.
Yeah, it is. So this game could take a while, though. If Bob draws an oath, he'll be in real good shape. Then,
he's going to let the Fairy Conclave get spun. So he can then cast Spike Feeder?
It's always landed.
Ah, that's cute.
That's a good play. That's a good play.
Another ritual.
So Davis really needs to find that Skittering Scourge, get it on board, and start attacking.
Should he consult for it?
I think he should, but maybe he's afraid.
All right, so now I understand being conservative if you think you've got the game won anyway, but he's in trouble.
Yeah, he's in serious trouble. I personally would consult, give it the best shot. I don't know what the math is based upon how many cards he's got in his deck, but if he has more than about 16 or 17 cards, he should definitely consult.
I think he's got like 30.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure what's keeping him from consulting.
He hasn't used a single consult this game. He's got like half his library left.
Yeah, I honestly think
consult for one of the 2 Scourges and just hope. He's got, because as soon as Bob draws into permission, even that plan won't work.
Right. Well, I mean, he can unmask and he can do some things, but he's just giving Bob a while to draw phases to draw the stuff he needs. And for instance, he's going to have to use a Contagion on this Spike Feeder.
Or he's got another spin, I think.
Or a spin. You probably would want to use Contagion because there's no way the spin would gain him any life.
True. Of course, you might as well wait for Bob to draw a card to give Bob the opportunity to draw counterspell, right?
Yeah, I think he probably wants to get the counter magic out of his hand. Although, I mean, Davis needs to really get on Skittering Scourge quick here. I think before he was thinking so much about, wow, Swords to Plowshares, that's an awesome draw. It'll probably, I mean,
it'll get unmasked.
Yeah, we'll get unmasked, but
he can't yes.
Oh,
he
unmasked
cannot
targets a player. You're right.
Plow is permanent in Bob's hand. Now only the second Skittering Scourge or the second disc can win the game.
So if he had consulted earlier, he'd be in a lot better shape.
If he'd consulted 4 turns ago, as soon as Ivory Mask hit the table, Bob would be dead.
Right. I think part of the reason why he might have made that error, and he hasn't made very many, so it's peculiar, but I think the reason why he made that error is because in this game he was probably thinking the creatures don't matter. I'm playing its Oath of Druids.
Right.
I don't want to put creatures on the table. And now he had to rely on getting a creature on the board to do some damage to Maher.
He's not playing against an Oath of Druids deck right now. He's playing against an Ivory Mask deck.
Right.
If you look at Bob's main deck only has 2 Oath of Druids.
Right. I mean,
it's like he has 6 Oaths and 5 Ivory Masks.
Right. The scary thing he's probably thinking is that if he consults, he'd lose the disc, possibly, or if he consults for the disc, he might lose the Scourges. And if he loses one or the other, his chances of winning reduce significantly. And certainly, if
do they reduce to less than they are?
Yeah, I agree. He should have consulted earlier, but now I think he's
only 2 in the main. He only has 2 Nevinyr's discs in his main deck, and he's already used one of them this game. So he's got 1 disc left in his main deck, if my memories of his deck list is correct. I'll double check that. Yeah, there are 2 Nevinyr's discs in his main deck. The other 2 are in the sideboard, along with some Dystopias, which can also remove Ivory Mask.
Oh, big pull! That's a disc. That's a disc.
Yeah, obviously his play was correct all along. Maybe there's some Scandinavian blood coursing through his veins. You can just see what was 4 cards down.
Okay.
Confidently lays the disc. Bob, okay.
Well, we know
Wow,
Bob
the last disc.
can't disenchant it because the Aura Silence is still in the graveyard.
Right. He
So,
can throw Guy's Blessing it
that's a
back
disc.
in, and get it as the cantrip card.
Latent Tutor.
But he can get no.
Oh!
But he can get no rod.
Scoop